So nice to be back on the library program after, I think, a month, I guess. And I can see everybody is vacationing, having fun. And most people are at the beaches, Disney, wherever you go, there's a lot of crowd. And I think it's amazing to see that how, everybody's coming out of the pandemic and just living life as normal. As usual, my favorite part is to teach, and I'm excited to paint this beautiful scene today. I chose this because I see everybody is enjoying sunset these days. Wherever we go, it's just so nice. And well, because of the wildfires, you can also see the red sun these days. So why not paint some warm scenes? And you can see the drawing is already here. You can go ahead and start doing the drawing. And as we get started, I'll explain what colors we need and how we're going to approach this whole scene. But for now, just do the drawing. The link to the reference photograph should already be on the calendar page, but I'll paste it again right now. And that's it for now. We'll get started, okay? Don't worry too much about your drawing. You don't have to be perfect. Just make do whatever you can and just enjoy the day today. Okay, let's get started. Send the link once again.
Megha, did we lose you?
No, I'm right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. I was just waiting for everyone to do their drawings.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
No problem. No problem.
I just stepped away to get a glass of water and I missed that. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. So I'm right here, everyone. Any questions, ask me, please, please, please. And make
I
sure
have a
that
question. Do you know where that picture was taken? It's beautiful.
it is from internet actually. I did not take this picture. I wish I had.
That's beautiful colors.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I chose this. I thought it was nice colors.
Yeah.
So I've put the link to the photographs. Maybe you can share it, Lauren, with everyone.
Yes. I'll put it in the chat box.
Yeah. Excuse me. So as you can see, we won't need that many colors for this painting today. It's just going to be very simple, warm colors. Yeah, it's going to be very simple, warm colors, just mostly yellows and oranges and a little bit of dark colors, but mostly warm. Yeah, I'll definitely keep some brown, some orange, yellows, some kind of a darker brown, like a sepia, or any black that you can mix. Those are the kind of colors I'm going to use. You could even use a bit of blue because we have orange, and that's a complementary color. It's a it's a sunset scene, and sometimes you see a hint of purples in those scenes. So a little bit of purple is also fine, but just those colors definitely. And you can see there are two people here, and they're very tiny, but it's just a very atmospheric painting. So we don't have to get into the details of how those people look, which is the good part. And yeah, within 5 minutes, we'll start our painting process. Just remember to enjoy. Painting is, or any form of art, is a journey. The end result can always vary for everyone. Just enjoy the moment, the part, and just think, why did you even start painting? It's to have fun and to feel good about it. Not all your paintings will turn out great. That's fine. But the point is to paint every day if you really enjoy it. I paint every day no matter what. I paint even when I'm traveling, I take it everywhere. So even if it's 5 minutes, try to be consistent and you'll see how your brushes um, will develop that muscle memory actually, and it'll just flow. It's just like riding a bicycle. But with riding a bicycle, once you learn it, you know you're not going to forget it. But with painting, you still have to keep moving your brushes. Keep your brushes wet all the time. And again, with this picture, everyone's interpretation is a little different. You want to add any colors, feel free, definitely. Um, it's always nice to put your own thoughts and your interpretation into any picture, because even though we are painting in a realistic fashion, we are not trying to copy the picture. And no camera can capture what you see with your naked eyes. So whatever you feel, add your own colors. Sometimes sunsets have a little bit of pinks, so definitely go with it. I always love adding pinks. And I don't know, for some reason, our screen is so small today. Um, but I'll try to keep my palette and I'll show you what I have, okay, in a bit. So we'll see if we can try to incorporate almost all the views, the photograph, the palette. Okay, so we are almost ready. Okay, I'm just keeping my brushes ready. And let's take a look at a photograph first. As you can see, very nice warm sunset picture. And you're going to see that, you know, there are some darks and lights and a lot of contrast in some places. But before we get into the color, we're going to see how much paint to apply when you start painting. And I always like to keep a black and white picture next to me, because that gives me an idea how much paint to add to my excuse me, paper. Should be a lot of thick paint, should be a lot of very watery thin paint. And as you can see, how the difference here is. This is really the lightest part in the painting here. This is somewhere mid. And as you can see, these are really dark parts, including the people. I would say the people are the mostly dark parts. This side is more dark than this one. And we got to make sure that we try to match these values. Values means the lightness or darkness of one color. It could be any color. In this case, if it's black and white, then you can say black, right? How light or how dark it is. And in watercolors, if you want to lighten something, you add water. And if you want to darken something, you add more paint to it. Okay, so we're going to keep that in mind, comparing these two photographs every now and then. It's always a nice idea to always keep looking at your subject so that you keep observing it. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing. Keep observing until I get the really right color and the light tone, right? So we're going to gather our paints. I'll definitely take some yellows, oranges, a little bit of like a muddy color here. You can add some purples, just mix it up and they look beautiful, and go from it. To approach this painting, what's important is you break it into parts, okay? Especially because we just have an hour to try to complete this painting. It's important we break it into parts because once the paper is wet, sometimes we may need to let it dry. And we want to make sure that if one part is drying, we have something to work on the other part, okay? And that's what we're going to do. I'll first start with top area, okay? So that later, when my hand doesn't get wet here when I start painting this area. Okay, so we'll start with this on the top and then slowly we'll come below. Okay, so let's get started. I'll show you what my palette looks like. I just have yellows, some orange, maybe a bit of red. I do have a nice dark brown. It's on sepia. I may use some purple or some brown. Let's see. But this is going to be my palette. Okay, I'll try to keep it as close as possible and see I can use it. Okay. All right, everyone, let's get started. Now to paint this, I'm going to use a technique called wet on wet. What it means is your paper is wet and your paints are wet. Okay. And I'm going to first going to wet this paper with just plain clean water till this line. Okay. And then I'm going to pick my colors of yellow, orange, and everything. And you can go with me. Just keep your paint steady in your palette, spray some water, let it be juicy. Okay, so let's get started. I'm just going to apply some water. Always keep a very soft touch when you apply your brush strokes. Your paintings will be very soft, less streaky, and even your paper is not going to get hurt a lot, because the more you put water or scrub it, your paper starts to get damaged after some time. And of course, the quality of paper really matters. The quality of paint really matter. Always go for good professional quality paint, even if you are a beginner. Yes, that's what I would say, because the quality really helps. You will be less frustrated. Your results are going to be better, and you'll be more likely to continue to paint. Okay, so I'm going to take a bit of orange, starting with some orange, and I'm going to go on top, very light, almost like um, very dull or tea consistency. If you think of a very weak tea solution, how it's going to look. I also add a bit of brown on the top. On the left, I'll keep it more orange. Continue this down. I've added a bit of purple into it. It's getting dark, right? It's a sunset. So yes, there's some grays into it. But instead of using black, I'm going to use just the colors. And one of the brush. Okay. Now, while this is still wet, it's a great opportunity to add more colors so that they blend into each other. I'm going to pick some more orange and continue to add it on the left-hand side. once again, while it's still wet, it's a good idea to add more colors. And this time I think I'll pick some yellow. I do see underneath some yellow tones. You can see towards the horizon, it's warmer, right? Towards the horizon, it's warmer. I'm constantly comparing my photograph, and I feel a little bit of darker orange. When I say darker orange, I can add a bit of red into my orange on top of this, right? And as you can see on the right hand side, this area, this bush or whatever shape, I would call it a shape, is really nice and warm, like really beautifully warm. So I can add a beautiful stroke of orange here. Okay. And maybe I'll stop for now so that you guys can catch up, and I'll let this dry. Yeah, I think it's a good idea to stop here now so that I don't end up overworking. Yep, I think it's good. I'll just clean my brush, give you guys at least 5 minutes to catch up. Any questions, please let me know. I'll be happy to answer. Especially about materials, the kind of paints, anything. And you can even email me after the class if you need the list of what kind of materials I use, where I can buy from, where you guys can buy.
Josna, can you give me your email address again so I can put it in the chat?
Yeah.
Thank you. Someone asked if you could use cardstock.
Cardstock paper. Well,
Yeah.
so the cardstock paper, they are very smooth paper and they don't absorb a lot of water. Okay. Now it depends on the kind of painting. The one problem with that is they buckle a lot. Okay, and if you're using a lot of water on your paint, they're not very ideal for watercolor painting. Watercolor painting usually require paper that absorbs some paint, and mine, I have a cold press paper. It absorbs a lot of paint. And even the quality of cardstock paper, they are not 100% cotton. They are mixed with a lot of things and they don't have a good weight. So you can paint if it's just a little bit of fun, and if you're using very less water, you can still paint, but they're not the best quality of watercolor paper. Okay, so next we can go on this area. If I feel I need a little bit more paint here, I'll come back. But for now, I'm not going to touch it because this is half dry. If I get into my wet brush right now, everything is going to form a puddle and they're going to form blooms. They call it cauliflower blooms. And it's just going to ruin the painting. So it's a good idea to leave it alone. Okay. So let's go with the bottom part. Okay, the bottom part again have a lot of kind of gray areas here, and it's also got some warm places, but we're going to do that later. I may use a little bit of purple and some, maybe a little bit of orange or some light pink or something to add some warmth to it. I do see some kind of some of those warm sunset reflection colors into the water. One important thing that you should observe when you're doing this kind of paintings is whatever is in the sky should be in the water and a little bit on the land, because that's how nature is. You cannot have something on the sky and not show it on the water at all. Then they're just going to look like two different pieces. To make it look harmonious, whatever is in the sky should be on land, on in the water, or some hint of that color should be somewhere around the painting to make it look like one. Okay, so definitely at minimum, whatever color in the sky should go in the water.
That's fascinating. That's a great tip, Megha. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm going to look for that in nature now.
Yes, that's how it is. I know we sometimes can't observe, but the more you paint, the more you observe, and then you see all the colors matching.
Yeah. Someone is asking what stroke you're using and what type of brush.
Okay. Uh, you're right. There's so many different kind of washes, what we call in watercolors. Right now, what I did was I was just going like a flat brush stroke. If you see, this is like a flat stroke, okay, because I'm using it flat and going. And the brush I'm using, this is a flat brush. These are great if you want to cover a lot of area and you want like a very smooth finish. So you can use this. When I have detail work, I'm going to use this. I'll show you when I use this later in small shapes. Okay, pointed brushes. Yeah, everybody's different. You can use what, you know, you're easy with. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to use a bit of maybe rose. I'll try to make sure that this is lighter than the sky area. You can use a bit of purple. I'm just going to mix a few colors here and there. Um, Maybe a bit of brown and orange. And just now, like I said, I was talking about the quality of brushes. These brushes are fantastic. They are great quality, and that's why maybe you can see that how my strokes are flawless. I'll add a bit of purple. It's too much. Okay. Okay. I think this is good. I can stop at this. Maybe with a brown here and there. Because, of course, we'll have to go back again and add a little more color into it. Okay. We're not yet done. Yeah. So I'm going to stop at this place because, again, I don't want to ruin the painting. I'll give you guys 5 minutes to catch up with this, and then I'll show you what we're going to do next and why we are going there. Okay. Different kinds of scenes sometimes require different approaches, and also what you're trying to achieve. And every artist is different. Some people paint from top to bottom, some people paint from side to, right to left, some people start in the middle. It's all a choice. It's also what you want to achieve out of it and how much time you have. Like I work 2 or 3 paintings at a time, so one is drying, it can go with the other one. If you want to speed up your drying process, you can use a hair dryer. Totally fine. Just don't use too much hot air on it. And the other thing is, yeah, it just depends on what you're trying to achieve mostly. So your approach also matters with that. Okay. All right. So I'll wait for 2 more minutes and then we'll get into um, these shapes. Okay. I'll call everything a shape because that's how nature is. Everything is in the form of shapes and values. They are either light or they're dark, and they are of different shapes because sometimes you cannot even describe what that shape is. So we just call it a shape. Because the minute you say, I want to draw an apple, if you cannot draw that apple just like how it is, then you get frustrated because we have defined it as an apple. But if you just say it's a shape, then you just follow that shape because your brain tells you it's a shape. Okay. Next, we are going to just waiting for this to dry a bit. It's too wet, but I guess, yeah. So for these shapes, I'm going to use sepia. It's almost like a very dark brown. You can use whatever you have. Um, if you don't have like a dark brown, you can add a little bit of blue into it, and that will give you a nice dark brown and blue mixed. That's actually almost so black. I don't want to use black because it's a very, very flat color. In watercolors, mostly you don't use black because they're very flat. You mix your own colors. Okay, so I'm going to start from the left-hand side. Okay. And looking at my black and white picture, I'm trying to keep it lighter on top because the values are lighter. And in the bottom, it's a little darker. I'll leave the people or the shapes, those stick figures, or you can say, I'll leave them alone now. They're not of my interest right now. And also I want to attempt them when everything is dry. Okay, I'm taking a little more darker brown and just coming below to make it slightly darker. I know some of them might have a question like, why did you go first lighter and then you're going darker? Well, the reason is because of transparency. In watercolors, the best quality of watercolors is transparency. And if I can just take a big blob of paint and just paint it in one shot, then why even use watercolors? The whole point in watercolors is the luminosity and the transparency is that you can see one layer of color beneath on one top of the other. So that's what I'm trying to attempt. If I do everything in one stretch, then they look all flat. Okay, so this is important. And this comes with only layers, one layer over another. This definitely takes time. It's a work of patience, understanding of how those colors are looking and behaving, but it's absolutely worth it. Okay. Once you're done with the left one, we'll approach to the right one. Okay. And again, if you look at the black and white picture, they're varied. They don't have the same value throughout, a little bit darker, a little bit lighter. I also see I might need a little more orange for it to really stand out. So before I apply the brown, I'll go with a little bit of orange first. Let me wait for a minute so that everybody can catch up. One more thing I want to highlight, which I can already see on the camera while this painting is drying, is watercolors dry lighter. I thought I had put enough paint on the top, like the sky area, but I guess it was really light. And now when it's drying, it looks quite pale. So you might be wondering, I added so much paint. Now when it's dried, it looks really dull. That's how the quality of watercolors is. Even the best paints dry a little lighter. So you just have to gauge with experience that I need to add a little more color. Of course, when you're new, I would suggest you go lighter because you can always go back and add paint. But if you go too dark, then removing paint through a paper is really difficult, and you will never get the white of the paper back. So I still sometimes cannot gauge. Like today, I really think this is drying and it looks little dull, but I'll let it dry and maybe within the class I'll try to add another layer. So don't be surprised if your paintings look a little dull. It's totally fine. Um, you can always go and add some paint over it. Okay, so I'll come here to the left, right hand side, and before I put some brown, I just want some more orange, beautiful orange on it. Okay, so I'll just go based on the shape and add some orange. Okay, especially on the top, it has to glow. Some of my students or a lot of people tell me watercolor is difficult. It's very difficult. But um, I would say that watercolors is not difficult. It's a very different medium. You definitely need a little more patience and understand the techniques about how to play with, not just with your water, with your paints, with your paper, because there are different textures on papers, and the timing. Okay, so it's altogether like a game. And once you get the hang of it, this is a medium that has so many possibilities, endless possibilities, that you can't even imagine. So it's a different medium, and it just takes a little bit of patience. So if you are willing to try with an open mind, and believe that you can paint, then you can paint. I have had my struggle days of watercolors, but I must say that, with a little bit of persistence, especially of daily painting, I have been able to, get a good handle of this medium. And the more I paint, the better I have become handling this medium. Now you can see I am just painting a very thin layer over this orange that I painted before. And this side, it's really dark and nice. Really getting close to the people here. Afraid I might lose the drawing, so being very careful. So be careful around those areas. They are very delicate areas, but either way. Yeah. So I think for now, I'll leave this alone so that I don't again mess up. We'll go to the bottom part in a minute, and I'll show you what to do with this. Okay. If you say it's just water, yes, it's just water. But again, we won't call it water because when your brain tells water, all you do is just try to form in a same pattern, either it's waves or something. But if you just observe this, I'm going to keep it here so that you can take a look. If you just observe this picture, there is a pattern. The pattern is again, as soon as this horizon ends, there is a small space where there is no strokes or anything, and then there are some smaller strokes, and notice they are lighter. As you come below, those strokes increase, the size of the strokes increase, and they become darker, especially here and there a little bit. And as you come closer, they become darker. They become darker, and here you can see they're larger and they're darker. They're the darkest here, right? Why is that? The reason being, it's perspective. When people can see things very clearly that is in front of them, you can see every detail. But something like a mountain that is a mile away, you can only see very soft edges of it. You don't see the every detail of that mountain. So that's how it is. So things that are closer will appear detailed, and they are going to appear darker. And that's very important when you paint. Otherwise, people make beautiful paintings, and or they make paintings, they're like, it doesn't look real, it doesn't look like that scene. It's because of this value problem. They can go very dark right in the front, right? So this is very important when you paint. It's all observation. So start painting very thin lines on the top, and as you come here, you're going to paint darker and larger, right? So we're going to keep that in mind. What colors are you going to use? Well, there's so many colors actually. You can again use a bit of brown, or a mixed black, like mixed with brown and blue. I do see some purple undertones here and there, some browns, and you can see here, because this orange is here, there's some orange strokes here. There's a lot of yellow and orange here. Again, what was in the sky has to come here again. So we're going to make some orange strokes here. Okay, so keeping that in mind, I'm going to start with a tiny brush, some small strokes, really small strokes. And then again, you don't have to be like very precise of, trying to copy every single stroke. Just um, keep in mind that it has to be small, it has to be lighter, and that's it. That's all that matters. It could be a little bit um, spread out. I'm going to use some purples because again, I don't want to keep it like the same color throughout.
Megha, someone's asking what color is this?
I use just a mix of a little bit of purple and brown. In fact, I'm going to say this that this area is going to be closer to this. So try to use whatever you use here. Okay. And here and there, I'm going to use like really sharp lines to make it really stand out, just like how the picture is. I'll come on the right hand side later because I need to add some oranges. You can also do this part when the paper is wet. With that, what happens is those edges are going to be really soft, very soft waves. It's just that because now we have a crunch of time, I can't keep re-wetting the paper because then I need to let it dry. Okay, so that's why they're going to look a little harsh. That's the only thing with watercolors. It needs drying time. Timing is important. And in fact, timing is everything in watercolors. As I'm coming down, I'm going to take a bit of blue mixed with this a little bit of brown because I do see some dark blues. Okay. Now I'm going to go into a bit of orange. Again, starting with really tiny strokes, almost like dots, and then a little bit of small strokes here and there. Then I go to larger ones. Also remember this, depending on the light during that time, you can see that these may not appear as bright as what is here on land. Okay, it's just how the light is. So to dull it a little bit, I'm just mixing a tinge of blue, like a dot of blue in my orange, so that they look slightly dull. I don't want them to pop out, just like what's in the land. Again, I can take slightly. You can also see there are some yellow tones. Again, they're not very bright. So I'm going to do those yellow tones, but I don't want them to look too bright. So I'll add a hint of purple in my yellow. Why? To dull it down. You want to dull anything, you add some yellow. Oh, sorry, they're complementary color. So the complementary color of yellow is purple. So that's what I'm going to do. Again, going back and forth, I do see there's some empty spaces here. Let me try to fill them. It's a bit dry, so maybe we can add another wash. Let's see. Right now, I just need to add a little more darks here. So taking darker brown, really dark brown, as you can see, mixed with a little bit of blue here and there with a little variety. I'll once again darken a few areas. Okay, a little more darker areas in the front so that they look different than what's on the top. If they don't look different, then they're just going to look like very flat. Okay. Just looking at the picture again and again just to find some dark. Okay. I'm not doing anything new right now. I'll show you what I'm going to do next, but for now, just this. I do feel this whole area could use a little bit of warmth, like a orange or something like that. But right now, I'll let it dry. In the meantime, we can go and do these people here. Okay. What color should I use for people? Well, they look so dark. Usually, I would use the same colors that are in this painting, and I'll use the same thing. I'll use a bit of orange, and on it I'm going to add a darker color so that all those colors blend in it, because there's some light that is also falling on these structures or people. Okay, so we'll just use the same colors. I'll wait for a minute so that you guys can catch up. We're not too far. We are getting closer to complete our painting. I'll take some of my orange and start painting the people. Even with this people, you can notice in the black and white picture that the one on the right hand side, you know, is a little lighter than the one in the left. The left one is really dark. It's like almost like black. Okay, so you got to make that transition or that distinction important, because they all cannot be the same color. This is how nature works again. The light is very, very important aspect, and you got to make sure that things look different. I kind of lost a bit of that drawing, but that's okay. And I know this part is a bit tiny. I think I should have done a bigger painting today. I just realized that it's a bit tiny to actually see what I'm doing. But that's a good learning. Hopefully you can zoom this and watch again, and then you can make some sense out of it. But yeah, this is tiny. I can pick a bigger one next time. Next, we have the other person to take care. And again, I'm just going to mix blue and brown together almost to make like a black. I'll show you what I made here, how I made my black. This is actually black paint, which I made by combining blue and brown. It's ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. And I make this black and keep it ready. And if I really want to use some black paint, then this is what I use. I don't use it that is already in the tube, because they're very, very flat. They make the painting look very dull. It's very boring. And I like colors, so I try to keep it colorful, even with blacks. As you can see, just following the flow. It's a bit dark, yes, better. Okay. So my top part is quite dry, okay? And if you're doing this with me step by step, then you have to make sure that the top part is dry, because I'm going to give a little bit of more wash to make it look a little warm and nice. If yours is not dry, then don't fiddle with your painting. Let it dry, and then you can re-watch this video. I'm sure it's recorded. Otherwise, you can just see what I'm going to do next. Okay. I am going to actually re-wet just the top area with clean water, very gently, because I want to put some paint on it. And the reason why I'm putting again water is because I want a smooth finish. I don't want, a lot of streakiness in my sky. Okay. I may continue slightly below here. The reason being, I need some warmth here. But you got to be careful, only if it's ready. Okay. All right. I'm getting in with some warmth. Don't worry, I can fix this. It's streaking, but I do need some warmth here. It's slightly dull. This looks good. This is good. I'll take a little bit of orange. And I want to continue here too, because this is too light. And I want some light showing here. Okay. So I got some light here. It's good. So that's it. And this is done. Now, as I mentioned, I also think I need a bit more warmth here. It looks dull. See, you can really see now that the sky and the water doesn't match as much as. So to give that, I think I need some orange tones here as well. But I want to make sure it's dry. It is dry for sure, but these people that I just painted are not dry. So I'll wait about 3 or 4 minutes more and very carefully put that paint. And then I think we're done with the painting. So just 5 more minutes, guys, and then we're done. Um, any other questions, let me know. Send me an email. You have any questions regarding anything. I also teach, workshops for kids and for adults and teens. And we're going to do a workshop next week, painting glass jars. And this is what we're going to do. If this is exciting to you, then you can shoot me an email if you want to join my workshop. It's a 2-day workshop, and it's for 2.5 hours each. We're going to complete that painting. It's painting glass jars. Very, very exciting subject. So that's what I'm excited about next week. Just 2 more minutes, then we'll finish this and almost done. Okay, let's go and finish this. Right now my water is so dirty. no matter how much I clean, I can't get rid of that paint. So yeah, it's important if you have clean water. Keep changing your water. I've been painting since morning for classes, so I forgot to change the water. Okay, I will go. Once again, just wet this area very gently. I'm not coming close to this. Some of those waves did get um smudged, but that's okay. I know it was not 100% dry, but that's okay. I'll take a small brush and get into these small areas where these people are standing so that they are not disturbed. Now I feel that there is some match between the sky and the water. It looks like one. I can go ahead and add all those tiny weeny yellows and oranges that I see. Yeah. Now you also saw how you can fix a painting if it doesn't look right and how you can approach it, right? So I guess that's it for today. Um, let me know if you have any questions.
That's absolutely beautiful, Megha.
Thank you.
If anybody wants to send a picture of what they've done to either me or Megha, we'd love to see what you've done. Here's my email.
Yeah.
And let me, Megha's email is here.
Yes.
Feel free to send us a copy so we can see. We'd love to.
Absolutely.
Found
Please
today.
send me. I'll give you a feedback about it. Please, please, please send me.
And any questions before we sign off today? Next week, we've got another watercolor class at 4 o'clock on Friday with Jyotsna Umesh. And then the week after that, Megha will be back with us to paint not a caterpillar, a grasshopper, right?
Yeah, it's a mantis. Yeah.
Yeah, praying mantis. That should be a lot of fun.
You know, I was thinking cicadas, but then they were very complex.
They're not as colorful as the praying mantis either.
Yeah. And I'm like, they have really created history this year, so why not paint cicadas? But they were a bit complex for an hour class.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun class.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for joining. I hope you had fun. Have a great weekend and hope to see you back on next Friday for another watercolor workshop.